Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Today we are giving these plain terracotta pots a makeover. I hope you enjoyed the video and please consider subscribing if you haven't already and hit the bell icon, so let's jump right into it. To start off, I grabbed this terracotta pot and began taping around the ridge of the pot. Once I taped all the way around, I mixed together these acrylic paints to create a light beige color. Then I started painting the body of the pot using a flat brush. I painted the bottom of the pot as well, and once the first layer of paint dried, I went for another coat on top. After the paint dried, I removed all the tape pieces to reveal the terracotta border. Using a pencil, I drew some organic shaped blobs of different sizes. I intentionally overlapped a few of the blobs. To color the blobs, I created a palette of 5 different colors by mixing all these acrylic paints. I started with this peach color and painted some of the blobs. I applied 2 coats to make the paint look opaque. Then I went for this darker peach color and filled in some more blobs. For the next round, I reached for this mustard color. I was trying to go for a palette where the colors complemented each other. You can choose any color palette according to your liking. I went for this grayish blue to paint the next set of shapes. To paint the remaining blobs, I used teal color. I opted for a flat brush for painting the blobs since it gives us control over the texture and shape of the blobs and also creates clean edges. To give the blobs a more defined look, I used a gold Sharpie to outline them. The lines didn't precisely follow the shape, instead they were slightly off to the side, leaving a small gap between the outline and the blob's edge. Some parts of the line were on the blob while others were outside of it, if it makes sense. To add some more tiny details as a finishing touch, I mixed together black and red acrylic paint to create a dark brown color. Using a small round brush, I painted a set of dots between some of the blobs. I painted these set of dots to fill a few sparse areas in between. To seal and protect the paint, I used this satin finish polyurethane varnish. I plan on keeping the flower pots indoors, however, if we intend to place them outdoors, we might want to use varnishes specifically designed for outdoor use. This completed our DIY abstract painted flower pot. To spruce up the next terracotta pot, I cut a circle and a crescent moon shape out of a thick cardstock. To map out 2 opposite points on the body of the pot, I drew 2 lines from the opposite sides of the pot's base and extended them upwards along the body of the pot. Next, I grabbed the circle cutout and placed it on one of the reference lines. And then I traced the shape onto the terracotta pot using a pencil. On the other reference line, I placed the moon shape and traced it as well. I started to sketch out a wavy line around the middle of the pot. I drew the peak on the left of the circle and the dip on the right, kind of like a sine wave. I extended the line towards the moon outline, drew another wave passing through the shape and connected the ends. I applied off-white acrylic paint to the ridge of the pot. I wasn't too concerned about the paint reaching the body of the pot, as I was going to use tape later for a straight line. To paint the bottom section, I added a little beige to gray acrylic paint to get a warm gray color. Then I started painting the section and I left a thin gap along the pencil outline. I was going to apply 2 layers of paint and made sure there was enough drying time in between the layers. Next up, I taped along the ridge of the pot before painting the rest of the part. To paint the upper half of the pot's body, I mixed together brown and peach acrylic paint to achieve muted brown shade. Once the paint dried, I took off all the tape. I noticed there was some paint bleed. To fix that, I dipped a small detailing brush in off-white paint and cleaned it up. To paint the top half of the sun, I used light yellow acrylic paint. I carefully painted that section with a flat brush. Also, I went for 2 coats of paint. To fill in the bottom half, I used mustard yellow paint. I went for a lighter and darker shade of the same paint to add more dimension to the shape. To paint the moon shape, I mixed together grey, brown and blue acrylic paint. To make a lighter shade of the paint, I mixed it with some white. Now to paint the top half of the moon, I used the light greyish blue shade. And to paint the bottom half, I used the darker shade. Next, I dipped a brush in off-white acrylic paint and painted over the pencil outlines. The white outline started to bring everything together. I was trying to keep my hand as steady as possible with this. Whenever I felt like my hand was shaky, I paused, took a deep breath and started again. Also, I was trying to keep the thickness of the lines as uniform as I could. Once I was done, I cut a 1.5 cm wide piece of cardstock as a template, placed it on top of the ridge and marked vertical lines all the way around. Then I dipped a small flat brush in black paint and painted over the pencil lines. I used the template to evenly space out the lines. Also, I left a little gap along the top and bottom of the ridge. To seal the paint, I applied a layer of polyurethane varnish on top after the paint fully dried. And there you have it, our DIY sun and moon flower pot. For the last terracotta pot, I used a pastel bluish green color to paint the ridge. Then I went ahead and applied the paint along the rim of the pot. Next, I taped along the border of the pot and then used a black paint to cover the rest of the area. I tried my best to smooth out the paint, minimizing any streakiness. After the paint dried, I removed the tape pieces to achieve a crisp line. Using a pencil, I sketched out some flower and leaf shapes onto the body of the pot. Before painting the flowers and the leaves, I filled in the outlines with white acrylic paint. The purpose of adding a layer of white paint underneath was to make the colors pop even more. I only applied a single coat of white paint, and after it dried, I started with this blush pink acrylic paint to color some of the roses. To paint the rest of the roses, I mixed together red and peach paint to achieve a coral shade. I applied 1 coat of paint here because I plan to add shading to the roses immediately after applying the next coat. While the paint was wet, I used a detailing brush to apply the darker shade of paint, creating small C-shaped strokes resembling rose petals. These petals were short and densely packed toward the center of the rose, gradually expanding and becoming more loosely arranged as they spread outwards. The purpose of adding the darker shadows while the layer underneath was still drying was to make the brush strokes appear smoother without any harsh lines. I opted for a shade 3 to 4 times darker than the base color of the rose to define the petals. To paint the next set of flowers, I used a peach acrylic paint. To add more details to the petals, I made a darker shade of the same color and painted short vertical lines using a dry brush. Afterwards, I added some random tiny dots to the center of the flowers with dark brown paint. Then it was time to add color to the leaves. I mixed up some blue, green, and gray paint and started coloring all the leaves. You can dip a fine detailing brush in black paint and sharpen the tips of the leaves if necessary. I made the green a few shades darker by adding some black paint to it and painted the spines of the leaves. To color the daisy flowers, I used off-white acrylic paint. Then I used yellow paint to make small circles at the center of each flower. To color the vines, I used gold acrylic paint. This added a nice metallic shine to the artwork. To protect and seal the paint, I added a layer of satin varnish on top. This brought a beautiful subtle shine to the flower pot. That wraps up our third DIY. I really hope you enjoyed all the flower pots we painted today. Let me know in the comments which piece is your favorite and please give it a thumbs up. You can also follow me on Instagram at DustyHues. Thanks for watching and I'll catch you next time.